Peace and Pan-Africanism. This is Dr. Umar Ifa Tunde coming to you live and direct, New York City, Ethiopian World Federation 2026 conference. The time has come for the lions to tell our own story, and this is the lion's voice.
Universally unfold, be told, blessed love, this is Etege Aidama, and it's time for the lioness and the lions, for I voices and stories to be told. This is the lion's voice, Rastafari.
We're endorsing the lion's voice. Big up Raspasi. See?
Big up Raspasi.
It is time for the lion to tell our own story. Yes, sir.
Like this. There is a land far, far away. There is no night. There's only day. Look into the book of life. And you will see that there's a land far, far away. Raspasi! That there's a land far, far away. Speak lion. Let's speak lion.
Roar lion, roar every time.
I will never stop, hail the Most High. And I will never stop, call Rastafari. Blessed love, this is Kushite representing for the Lion's Voice. We are here to tell our own story, Rastafari.
Now drop your guard when it come to them, ya youth, ya. Them fully guard up and them quick fi execute, ya. Now drop your guard when it come to them, ya youth, ya. The one will laugh, I'm same one of the shooter. Watching them, this is Rasta Jai representing for the Lion Voice Network. This is the time when the lion gets to tell our own story. Haile Selassie.
What are you waiting for? Come together, calling from near and far. Know who you are. What are you waiting for? Rally up, it takes the dust. What are you waiting for? Ancestors paved the way for us. Yes, I am Ketis Oyonde, asking, what are you waiting for to come together? The time has come for the lions to tell our own story. This is the Lion's Voice.
Yes, job people, this is Michael Shamai representing. I will say, hear the Lion Voice, saying it is time for the lions and the lionesses to tell their own story. King David killed Goliath with a stone, we original dread.
Well, Lion Voice, tell them that's the people first choice. Lion Voice, make the lioness them feel nice. Lion Voice, with the lion cubs we sacrifice. Lion Voice, got to show the people them the life. Lion Voice.
Yeah. I shall lift up I eyes unto the hills from whence cometh I help.
Them could never conquer the mountains. Thousands of years and counting. Ethiopia rise again unto the world. Now we are announcing Them a plan for war, we a plan for peace. And now we see him wanna go dismantle the base. When the trumpet sound and the violence cease, how we say one go build up the cities. Well, them a plan for war, we a plan for peace. And now we see him wanna go dismantle the base. Rastafari crown as the Prince of Peace. Him tell the youths them fi build up them countries. Well, for unto us a son was born and a child was given, and the government shall be upon his shoulders, and his name shall be called the Wonderful Counselor, Everlasting Father, the Prince of Peace. Them call him Rastafari. When he was born, rain fall from the sky. Them call him Rastafari. When he was grown, in airplanes he fly. They call him Rastafari. Lion break the chain, weep not, don't cry. Them call him Rastafari. Read the Revelation chapter 5 verse 5. Then born near the city of Harar, the inspiration for Bob Marley's guitar. People crowd him like some big superstar. It no matter if England or Cote d'Ivoire, no matter if you're brown or black like Qatar. Haile Selassie say fi end all tribal war. A time fi gather Mount Zion, fi drive solar car from the car straight to Zanzibar. Who we are, the sons of Rastafari. When he was born, rain fall from the sky. Rastafari. When he was grown, in airplanes he fly. Then Rastafari. The lion break the chain, weep not, don't cry. Then Rastafari. We do everything.
iRoots Records, an online shop for reggae and dub vinyl, CDs and Rastafari books. Rastafari owned and operated for over 15 years. We ship worldwide. We have many titles from Frontline Publications in stock. We have 50 plus Akabeka Midnight titles, which we believe is the most of any shop in the world. Special invite for the Lion Pride. Use code Lion's Voice and save 10% store-wide. If you spend $125 or more, the discount goes up to 15%. Visit us online at www.irootsrecords.com. The time has come.
In the haunting echoes of violence against women in St. Anne, Jamaica, a mysterious vigilante emerges. For the Woman Painted Purple unfurls a gripping narrative of empowerment, retribution, and the pursuit of justice. Brenda and her group sisters bond together in therapy over their common struggles, but soon their group becomes the subject of an investigation. As the vigilante's actions escalate, the relentless detective, Officer Woodley, races to unmask the mystifying figure. For the Woman Painted Purple is a pulse-pounding tale that explores the boundaries of justice, revenge, and the fighting spirit. This thrilling saga delves into the complexities of dealing with mental health, domestic abuse, and finding love after. Own your copy today. Visit www.devanigreen.com.
This is The Black Heart Man, Rastafari children's picture book with hand-painted illustrations and rhythmic storytelling. This is a journey you do not want to miss. We offer worldwide shipping, so order your copy today at www.degreospaintbrush.com. Alternatively, you can order your copy from TikTok. If you are interested in stocking the book, please email us at degreospaintbrush@gmail.com. Give thanks.
Greetings in that divine name of His Imperial Majesty, Emperor Haile Selassie I. Glory and honor in the name of His chosen Queen, Empress Waziri Menen. My name is Kwasi Bansu, aka the Chazmach Kwasi, aka Ras Kwasi, aka the Reading Ras, aka the Pan-African Happy Man. I'm a creative industry attorney, I'm an author, I'm an artist, I'm an actionist, and right now I am the host of Lion Talk Live. Welcome to Lion Talk Live, and welcome to the Lion Voice Network, where the lions are telling our own story. It is Pan-African History Month here on the Lions Voice Network. We are off to a mighty start tonight, a classic episode. Make sure you share this one. Make sure you spread it out. We're going to the Nile Valley tonight. We're gonna set the stage for all Western civilization. Everything you see today, from AI to just name the technologies. We're going to go to the root. We are going to go up the Nile River with one of the foremost scholars on the planet when it comes on to Nile Valley civilization and Kemet in particular. This scholar has done archaeological digs, one of the few Black people that has been allowed to actually excavate in Kemet. His works are in the museum. He's also a Howard alumni like myself. So I'm very ecstatic about that. He's part of our Washington, D.C. community, and we're going to talk about Washington, D.C. A lot of people don't know the significance and the connection to Kemet, the city that I'm in here has, and the city of America, the global hegemon, which is, we're watching what's happening with America. We've talked about it extensively. But we're going to talk about today how Africa, how Kemet impacted and influenced how the city was laid out, the powers that they draw upon for this reign that they have enjoyed. So tonight is going to be a night of epic proportion, and it would not be possible without the global Lion Pride. If you subscribe, you're part of the Lion Pride. I want to just take time to big up our growing global family. We just passed 80,000 subscribers. So if you're new to the platform, make sure you subscribe. We are Rastafari independent, non-aligned media, but we are also upholding the Pan-African standard. So we don't just interview Rastafari on the platform. We are also interviewing our Pan-African family. We just interviewed the Honorable Michael Duncan, 11th President of the UNIA. Make sure you check out that interview. We also just dropped our Dr. Umar Johnson interview. We know he's a controversial figure, but you can't deny the work that he's doing in terms of just waking people up. And I think our interview humanized Dr. Umar in a way that I haven't seen many interviews do. So make sure you check that out. Also, his connection to the Rastafari community from early in his tradition. And I can testify because I ran into the brethren in a classroom on Howard University campus. And this was way before the fame. This was maybe 2000. I can't even remember the date because I think I was still in law school at the time. So that would have been before 2003, just to show you how long the brother's been on his journey. So check that out. We also have some episodes that are on the way that I want to share with everyone. We're doing a Pan-African roundtable. We're going to be confirming and dropping those panelists shortly. That's going to have voices born and raised on the African continent, as well as diaspora voices. And we're just going to do a roundtable on some of the issues that are impacting Africa today, from the AES to what's happening in South Africa, to Dan Cote and the refinery. All of that we're going to be talking about. So make sure you stay tuned for that. We're also going to have our sabbatical sip. Big up yourself, Medina, Simple Island Life. We will be having our 10 a.m. episode. That's going to be a Pan-African roundtable. So stay tuned. We'll announce the names. But in the evening, 5 p.m., we are going to be welcoming the Sistren of the Blue Fire Order. They're having a retreat, so we're going to be welcoming the order, the Sacred Order of the Blue Fire. These Sistren they have created their own order within Rastafari, spiritual order. We're going to talk to them. They have a woman's retreat. So we're going to talk to these sisters. It's going to be powerful. So make sure Saturday that you all get your act, clear your schedule, because we are going to have a great time. And We are also racing toward 100 monthly subscribers. We want to get at least 1% of our audience subscribe monthly. That's $5, $10. If you love and you value Rastafari independent non-aligned media, you got to pay for it. We have to pay for our liberation. I've been very clear with that. And we're also going to ask our guests how you can support what he's doing. He has 2 books. We're going to make sure we share that information. Make sure you purchase the books, buy the merchandise. We are creating a Rastafari Pan-African economy. We have to circulate our dollars. That is central to what we're doing here, because we can't just be comfortable because we're on YouTube. We have to build our own infrastructure. We have to launch our own satellites. We have to have our own servers. All of that is part of where we're heading. But we start somewhere, and we have a 1-1 cocoa full basket, every mika meka mucka philosophy here on the Lion Voice. So big up all the new members. The Honorable Prophet Sian out of the UK came in strong with as a monthly subscriber. Big up Dr. Robbie Shilliam of John Hopkins University, one of the department chairs. Give thanks for his contribution. And we've also had a few others, Sister Nyla, who have come on board recently. And we're just very thankful for everyone. Also, you can give a super chat. You can support by giving a super chat to the platform, Grassroots. You can let them know in the comment section how they can give a contribution. We have our moderator, Grassroots, one of our faithful Lion Pride, in the comment section. And let me just say, before we bring forward the guests, that we have the greatest comment section on the planet Earth. And that is because it's a kind comment section. It's not a yes man comment section. We disagree, but we have love. People meet and greet, and facts are flowing. You know, our audience. Let me not say our audience is very well researched, very knowledgeable. At any given time, sometimes we have multiple PhDs in the comments. We have, scholars. We have all kind of people that show up. So I just want to say thank everyone for making this experience, historic as it is for the Rastafari family, what it is. We're just getting started. And tonight, again, is another milestone. World-renowned scholar here to reason with the Lion Pride family. So we're in for a major treat. So without any further ado, I'm going to introduce our guests. I want some emojis in the comment section. I want some love. I want some vibration for our guest tonight. He's an elder. He is one of our great scholars. I'm going to call some names to him, like a John Henry Clark, like a Benyuk. You're going to see the cloth that this guest is cut from, Asa Hilliard. We're going to call some names tonight, and you're going to see that this is not a normal guest, and only the Almighty can grant such an auspicious occasion as we are about to share this evening. So without any more long talking, please, family, help I to welcome our guest for the evening, the great Anthony Browder. Royal blessings.
What's up, my brother? It's a pleasure to be here with you. And I must say this, you come highly recommended.
Okay.
You come highly recommended.
Yes, and let me big up Baba Kalechi. We had a episode here with Baba Kalechi. If you have not seen that episode where we touch on Nigerian history, make sure you check that out. He's going to be returning. I have been, a student of yours for a long time. I'm part of an organization called Habisha, and we did one of the Egypt on the Potomac tours. We took the young people, so I had an opportunity to actually go on the tour. I think you weren't there that day. You had someone who was very competent. I can't remember who did the tour. but it was very powerful. And from that time, I've just been in awe of your work. So tonight is like I said, it's a treat for myself and for my audience, which is a global audience. Most people will watch on the replay, and most of our audience is on the African continent as well. So just a FYI. But that being said, we have a tradition here on the Lion Talk live show where we ask our guests, and as an African spiritualist, you'll understand where I'm coming from. We're asking you to step into our Lion Talk time machine and to take us in the tradition of the African griots to the moment of your birth and to paint the picture, telling your story, where you were born, how you grew up, where you went to school, and your journey to this Pan-African consciousness.
Well, thank you so much for this opportunity. And I was born in Chicago. I am a lion. I am a Leo. My birthday was several weeks ago. I grew up in Chicago, the 1950s and 60s. I left in 71 to come to Howard University, and I've lived here in Washington, D.C. for the last 55 years. I was fortunate to have grown up in Chicago at a time when the world was changing dramatically, and I had an opportunity to witness and to participate in some of those changes. I remember where I was the day that Malcolm was assassinated.
Wow.
I remember seeing Dr. King in Chicago at an event that Dick Gregory hosted. I remember when Dr. King came into Chicago to integrate Marquette Park, and remember him being hit in the head with a brick as white residents attempted to prevent him from going into the house that he had rented. And I recall Dr. King saying that he has faced all kinds of racism in the South, but the quality of the racism, the intensity of the racism he experienced in Chicago was unlike any other racism he experienced in his life. So I grew up in that environment. Chicago was, in the 1950s, and still is today, the most racially segregated city in the United States of America. So I grew up on the west side of Chicago, and in an all-Black community. As a child growing up, I had a Black doctor, had a Black dentist, had a Black, went to a Black bank. So my community was us doing our thing as we have always been forced to do during segregated times. So I grew up with a sense of my potential as a person of African ancestry. I ultimately did a year at the University of Illinois in Chicago, where I majored in architecture, and then decided that I was ready to leave Chicago. I mean, growing up on the West Side is an interesting life experience. I've been shot at least 3 times. The third time I was shot at, I said, well, Browder, maybe this is your cue to leave. And so I decided to transfer from University of Illinois to Howard University, changed my major from architecture to design, graphic design, and advertising. So I've been drawing all of my life. And that's really what has motivated me. I am an artist by training, and that's been my saving grace, in that I'm not a formally trained historian. I'm not a formally trained Egyptologist. I'm not a formally trained archaeologist. I'm not a formally trained writer. I have learned to do these things because I like doing them, and I am inspired to do them, which has allowed me to do things that people trained in those professions have been unable to do. And I also came to learn that many of the things that we seek to do can be accomplished by cultivating a spiritual connection with our ancestors. I'm living proof of that. It graduated from Howard in 1974, but my real education didn't begin until 1977, 49 years ago.
Oh, hold on, stick a pin, Baba, because first of all, 77 is the year I was born. But aside from that, stick a pin.
Okay.
I wanna, because as Rastafari, we like to bubble the pot nicely. We gotta go back to Chicago. Were you from a Pan-African home? Was your house, Christian? What was your home life as a young man in Chicago? Obviously, you say you're surrounded by the inner city. Paint that picture.
Okay, so let's back up a bit and let's stir up the pot. My mother was 16 when I was born,
Okay.
so I grew up in my
Okay.
grandparents' household. My
Okay.
grandmother was a devout Christian. That was all she knew.
Okay.
My grandfather wasn't religious. As a matter of fact, as a child growing up, I used to think my grandfather was a devil. He was a
Oh,
very
wow.
angry black man, and it wasn't
Yes.
until he died when I was a teenager that I came to understand the source of his
Of his
anger and
anger.
frustration. Right. Um, my mother married when I was 5. She married Harold Browder when I was 5. She divorced him when I was 10. So
Okay.
essentially, I've grown up in a single parent household. My mother has been my primary source of inspiration. My mother was the first African American to be hired by NBC in Chicago. That was in
Okay.
the early 60s, maybe 1962. So I spent time with her going down to the TV station and being able to witness as a 12-year-old watching the news broadcasts and the weather reports. So I had a
Okay.
chance to look behind the curtain and to see that
Yes.
all of this is fake, all of this is staged. So I've
Yes.
never been amazed or captivated by the media because I saw it for what it really is. It's a means of disseminating information and misinformation.
Okay.
My mother was a person. Um, she was a very fierce and determined African American woman, a very accomplished African American woman. And one of the things that she instilled in me was the value of an education and the value of travel. The value of travel.
Travel.
So I was the first person in my family to leave Chicago. I had just gotten to the point where I knew it was time for me to leave. And I wasn't afraid of venturing into new territory because I knew, because I was prepared. And one, I also had an understanding that what was waiting for me was whatever I had conceived. What was
Okay.
waiting for me was what I wanted. And so I knew that I wanted to have a better life. I wanted to have other experiences. And lo and behold, when I came to Chicago, let me share this with you. One of the
Yes.
first
Yes.
observations I made, and this would be of value to you since you've lived in DC for quite some time. So when I first moved to Chicago, I lived in a house at 16th and S. I lived with a colleague of mine, my mother's, who had worked at NBC and then was
Yes.
transferred at NBC here in DC. So he's a good friend. Lived in this house for about a year. And so I would walk from his house to Howard University and back. So
Mhm.
the route that I would take was 16th Street to Florida Avenue to Georgia, Georgia to Howard. So at
Mhm.
that time in 1971, 14th and U was the center of heroin addicts and prostitution. It was the center of drugs and prostitution. Now, I'm coming from the west side of Chicago, so I was
Yes.
already familiar with that. That was in my neighborhood. It wasn't a big
Yeah.
thing. But
Yeah.
after being in DC for a couple of weeks, I knew who all the drug dealers were. I knew who, if I wanted to buy any drug, I knew where to go to buy any drug I wanted. And then it dawned on me, if I know who the drug dealers are, if I know where the drug dealers are, then the police know.
Of course.
Uh-huh. These problems, these issues exist in certain communities in order to destroy, disenfranchise those communities. So
Yes.
things begin to click, right? Things begin to click for me. But the beautiful thing for me, living in DC in 1971, I thought I had gone back in time at least 50, 60 years. DC was a slow town. There
Yes.
were no gangs. And for the first time in my life, brother, I experienced a sense of freedom that I never felt in Chicago. I knew that
Okay.
I can go, travel anywhere in the city and not have to worry about black folk beating me up because I was from the wrong side of town or white people beating me up because I was black. That had happened to me multiple times in Chicago. So DC gave me this profound sense of release, right? Freedom. And then, of course, I'm at Howard University and I'm meeting sisters and brothers from all over the United States and all over the world. I didn't know black folk were living in Brazil. I didn't know there were black folk in the Caribbean until I came to Howard. So it just expanded my understanding of what Pan-African really is, and then prepared me for the work that I've been doing for the past 50 years. So coming
Yeah.
to DC saved my life because
Yes.
I would say 60% of my childhood friends from elementary school are all dead.
Wow.
They were shot. They OD'd, alcoholics. They died of alcoholism. They've done years in prison, and as a result, they're in their 70s, but still have the mentality of a 15-year-old. So leaving Chicago when I did was the best decision I could have made, and it afforded me the opportunity to become the person that I was destined to become.
Beautiful. So, coming to Howard University, the Mecca, from a person who hasn't traveled, paint that picture for people who are not familiar with Howard University. And I don't know what it was like in those times, but I can say for myself, coming from Toronto, Howard was mind blowing, just in
Yeah.
terms of the diversity of blackness, because, we know, in Toronto it was mostly Caribbean culture.
Yes.
So when I came here, I was introduced to Black American culture. I was introduced to Africans, continental Africans, but then you have every state has a different culture as well. You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
And people don't realize that in the United States, West Coast Black people are different than East Coast. Midwest is,
Absolutely.
this is totally different. So Howard University, you really get this. And then I was introduced to the Blacks in Colombia, Honduras. What was it like for you as a young man coming to the Mecca?
So coming to DC in 1971, we came on the heels of one of the most significant takeovers of the A building in the late 60s when students demanded Black studies, demanded a greater role in centering themselves in their Africanity. So I was the
Okay.
beneficiary of that. Of course, I was in DC after the murder of Martin Luther King. I was in DC. I was a freshman at the University of Illinois when Fred Hampton and Mark Clark were murdered.
Oh,
I
wow.
went to school with a sister who was in the house the
Wow.
night that they were murdered, and she gave her first person account of what transpired in that apartment. And it was a 180 different from what the police, Edward Hanrahan and Richard J. Daley, the mayor of Chicago, described. And that's when I began to see that there is such a thing as fake news.
Hmm.
So bringing that knowledge to DC, the capital of the United States, gave me an opportunity to reevaluate everything that I thought I knew. And here's the other important point that I want to make. I was amazed at how dirty and unruly DC was. DC is the capital of the United
Yes.
States. But as I
Yes.
walked past 14th and U Street every day, I saw buildings that had not been restored since they were burnt in 1968 when King died. And
Yeah.
I couldn't figure out, why this is the nation's capital. And again, as I began to understand racism and the depths of racism, as I walked past the junkies at 14th and U all the time, things were so bad at that intersection, at that point in time, that when the stoplights turned red, they had a speaker attached to the stoplight that said, "Stop, stop, stop," because junkies were walking out into the street getting hit by cars, right?
Okay.
I noticed in the evening, I would see cars with congressional plates drive down and pick up two or three ladies of the night and drive off. So I really had an opportunity to see DC, see Washington, see this city, see the underbelly of this city, and not just the image that's projected in movies. So coming to Howard then and meeting people of African ancestry from all across the country, broaden my understanding and deepen my understanding of who we were and what we had the capacity to do. This was toward the tail end of the civil rights era. So people were still wearing afros. And if you went out on the yard on any Friday, when people were about to cut loose, you would see afros everywhere. Now, do a flashback to 20 years ago when I came up to Howard, not 20, not, 15 years ago when I came up to Howard to tape some interviews with Rock Newton, and Rock Newman, who was then doing his shows out of Howard's TV station. I came on the yard and all the sisters are wearing weaves down to the behind. And I just had to realize that times have changed, and
Yes.
change is not necessarily a good thing.
Yes.
And so there is this evolution. There's this shift that we're constantly going through. There are these cycles that we experience, and so I'm at the point in my life. I just turned 75 4 weeks ago, so I am
Blessing.
now an elder, and as an elder, I've lived long enough to see specific cycles in history. I've lived long enough to recognize certain cycles, what these changes indicate, and what is coming once these changes begin to take effect. And so, what I can truly um, assess from learning these cycles is that we have done a lot, but it appears in the short time that I've lived on this planet, just 75 years, we have taken one step forward and two steps back. We have
Wow.
not moved closer to our objectives because of all of the obstacles that have been intentionally placed in our path. But things are still moving forward, right?
Yes.
And we're at a point now where we have the greatest thief in the White House that this country has ever produced,
Yes.
and he's also the most visible racist in the White House in almost 100 years. And so he has pulled the covers off and revealed this nation for what it has always been, and it's making more of our people wake up and realize that we cannot be dependent on white people, God concepts to save us.
Yes.
We have
Yes.
to know ourselves. We have to know what our ancestors have created and what we have inherited. And then we have to be extremely intentional about applying that knowledge to make our personal lives better, our family lives better, our
Yes.
community together. And then once we have mastered that, and you got to begin there. If you don't have your personal life together, if you don't have your family life together, if you don't have your community together, nothing else matters,
That's
right?
correct.
So we have to have that foundation. We have to have that base. And once that is solidified, it then becomes a launching pad for people working collectively to make other things happen. And so I'm at the point in my life, I'm at the point in my career where I want to work smarter, not harder. I think I've
Yes.
paid my dues,
Yes. Yes.
and I'm interested primarily in working with people who have something to work with, right?
Yes.
Who have minds that have not been um, filled with toxins
Yes.
from diet or whatever, who have information that they can now refer to so that they can make informed decisions. Those are the people that I want to spend the next 5 to 10 years building with. And then I can step back and say, my work is done, that I can leave it to the younger generations to continue what John Henry Clark referred to as great and mighty walk.
The great and mighty walk. So, in terms of your Howard experience, what was your theology at that time going on campus? Your spiritual development. How did you see yourself? Did you come on the campus as a Pan African? How were you? What was that evolution in terms of your
Sure.
theology,
Full
cosmology?
disclosure, brother, I was a
Yeah.
knucklehead. I was a knucklehead. I had no awareness of Africa. no
Yes.
appreciation of African
Yes.
history and culture.
Yes.
Um, even though I was, and this may sound a little controversial, but I want you
Yes.
to understand it in the larger
Yes.
context. Even though my grandmother is my spiritual foundation, my spiritual
Yes.
core, I
Yes.
consider myself fortunate that I was never baptized,
Yes.
that I was never wedded to the religion. I was never wedded to Christianity because I asked too many questions. I would go to church with my grandmother as a child, but I would ask questions. Why don't I see people who look like me in the Bible? Where are we? Oh, well, color doesn't matter. She would give me these answers that never resonated with my soul. But
Yes.
because I loved my grandmother, I listened to her. I followed her advice. She was the most spiritual person I ever met in my life. And
Okay.
I knew what the Bible meant to her. And so once I came to Howard, I met people who had other philosophies, right?
Yes.
And it expanded my understanding of what spirituality was and what religion could be. And then I recall back in the 70s, Dick Gregory would come to Howard to speak at Howard at Crampton maybe once or
Yes.
twice a year. And I'll never forget, it was either 72 or 73. Dick spoke and he used this word I'd never heard before. That word was karma, and he talked
Mm.
about karma. He talked about reciprocity. And so I went back to my dorm, pulled out my little pocket dictionary. I couldn't find the word karma in the dictionary. I went to Mona Spingarn Library on Howard's campus
Yes.
to use their dictionary. I couldn't find karma in the dictionary. So I asked someone, where can I get some information about karma? And someone, I don't recall who it was, someone said, well, you would have to go to Georgetown to a bookstore called Yes Bookstore. And I think you'll find what you're looking for. I went down to Yes Bookstore and I found whole sections, shelves with books on karma. And Yes Bookstore, for those who are not familiar, it was an esoteric bookstore in Georgetown that specialized in books about meditation and yoga and higher consciousness and things of that nature. Yes became my favorite hangout because it was there where I found books that were not a part of my formal indoctrination. And reading these books expanded my knowledge of self, expanded
Okay.
my humanity, and allowed me to determine my path. So here's the important thing for me from that conversation. Once I understood what karma was, cause and effect,
Yes.
um, that we create our own reality, that our destiny is not determined by external forces, what some people call God. Anyway, let me not get too deep in that. But once I began to understand
Yes. Yes.
concepts of karma and also concepts of reincarnation,
Mm-hmm.
then they just made sense to me. They just resonated with my being. So as I studied more about what people refer to as Eastern philosophies, I found a path that I could follow without fear. And that's the important thing, to follow something without fear and also without ignorance, without foolishness.
Yes.
And so as I began reading more, and I was always an avid reader, if I got nothing out of my education in Chicago, it was to learn the value of reading, writing, and reasoning. I was blessed in my first 8 years of education to go to a black school with black teachers and black students. So,
Mm.
and my teachers liked
Yes.
me,
Yes.
and they liked the fact that I liked to read, and I would come prepared for class, and I would answer questions. So they doted on me, and I liked that attention. So that helped to prepare me for my adult life when I began to read what interested me instead of reading what I was required to read by school.
Read.
So all of that set me up for, and again, talking about my time at Howard, I was a knucklehead at Howard. I did the same thing that most students do at Howard. I didn't know any better. I had fun, right?
Yes. Yes.
I didn't
Yes.
learn
Yes.
anything. I was in fine arts, man.
Yes.
And
Yes. Yes.
half of my professors in fine arts didn't want to be there. weren't really interested in teaching us. And I saw that. I felt that there were a couple of teachers. Um, Lois Malou Jones was one, and I regret to this day not fully knowing the history of this phenomenal artist, this phenomenal painter when I was there. She never bragged about her work, but she was one of a handful of instructors who truly cared about teaching us.
Yes.
So after I graduated from Howard in 1974, to be perfectly honest with you,
Yes.
I felt lost. I felt as though I was not prepared for the world that I knew was waiting to consume me, to chew me up and
Okay.
spit me
Yes.
out.
Spit you out.
And so I spent my first year just kind of wandering aimlessly. I got a job. I was working at IBM doing Howard part-time work. So I worked there full-time just to get some money in. And what put me on the path was a homegirl of mine who was a student from Chicago told me about some classes that were being held in Southeast DC by this
Okay.
brother Nana Kwabena Brown of the Temple of Inyame. He had a
Okay.
class on African spirituality. I took that class, and after that class, I now knew who I was as a person of African descent. I was grounded in concepts of African spirituality such that I can move forward with a greater degree of confidence. And one of the pieces of information that Nana Kwabena Brown gave me or gave the class at our last session was that we had to use discernment in using the knowledge that he had exposed us to. He said, because if this information is abused, and used for unjust purposes, this abuse of this knowledge has the capacity to destroy your life for several incarnations.
Wow.
So that set with me several incarnations. So, oh no, I've got to do this right. I
Mm-hmm.
took him seriously. And so, again, understanding karma, understanding reincarnation, um, helped me to become more responsible for myself because I knew reciprocity, cause and effect was real. And I also understood that there's no such thing as chance, coincidence, or accident in the universe ruled by law and divine order. Everything happens for a reason, and we as spiritual beings having a human experience have the capacity to draw certain experiences, certain people to us based on our consciousness, based on our thoughts, based on our speech, based on our actions. So I took all of this seriously. And as a result, my life began to become my life and not a reflection of someone else's life. And that led to a series of incidents that began in 1977, specifically February the 21st, 1977. That was when I went to see Ivan Van Sertima, Dr. Ivan Van Sertima, speak at
Mm.
Georgetown Law School. He had just published his book, They Came Before Columbus, The African Presence in America. And I
Okay.
sat back and listened to Van Sertima share information with me that I had never heard before. I thought I was smart before I saw Van Sertima, but what I realized upon meeting him that I had been taught everything incorrectly. I had not been taught any information that affirmed who I was as a person of African ancestry. And what blew my mind, what freed my mind that February was when Van Sertima talked about the Olmec people, said that they had come to Mexico by traversing the Atlantic Ocean, the Mediterranean Sea, and the Nile River, and that they were from Kemet and Cush, ancient Egypt, and that they were black. That was the first time in my life, 1977, February 21st,
Wow.
1977, was the first time in my life anybody ever told me that the ancient Egyptians were black. That's when I knew I'd been lied to. That was the moment that I said that I needed to assume responsibility for re-educating myself. So my
Wow.
real education began 3 years after I graduated from Howard, when I discovered what I now refer to as forbidden knowledge. I discovered Chancellor Williams, Destruction of Black Civilization. I discovered John Jackson, Introduction to African Civilization. I discovered Dr. Ben. I discovered Van Sertima, as I said, and a plethora of scholars, of knowledge and information that was never a part of my formal educational process. At not at Howard University, even though Chancellor Williams taught at Howard University. William
Yes.
Leo Hansberry taught at Howard University, and I knew nothing about them. So I took my re-education seriously and began using my time, my talent, and my treasure to learn all the things that have been denied me during my formal educational process. And that decision ultimately led to me being on your show today and why you invited me to be a guest.
Yes. Yes. And if you're watching live, we have I would say the legendary Anthony Browder here with us, um, Kemet scholar. I see the questions in the comment sections. We're going to get to them. If you want to make sure your questions get answered, put it in a super chat. So it's highlighted because they're coming. The comments are coming fast, so I don't want to miss your questions. We're going to hold them until the appropriate time because we want to just get out the story first. Um, we're at Kemet now. So, um, and you called some powerful, these are the pantheon of some of our great Pan-Africanist scholars that you called in terms of their books, Dr. Chancellor Williams, and some of the others. Take us from this awakening of Kemet and when you now made that conscious decision. It's one thing to research and to read and to educate yourself, but that's not where you stopped. You know, you really started to embody this knowledge. Take us on that journey when it started to shift the course of your life. Obviously, you were not working at IBM forever. So what was that transition like?
So the transition was in 1976. I got a job in a design studio in Silver Spring, Maryland. And I worked that job. I'm a hard worker.
Yes.
And I rose through the ranks and I was ultimately made a supervisor
Okay.
where I worked in the night shift. And because I had risen through the ranks, because I had a better understanding of white management, now it was a Jewish owned company that had
Yes.
contracts with the federal government. So we were doing the design work for different presentations that were being done at the Pentagon, at the Naval Weapons Division out on New Hampshire Avenue, and other government agencies. So I got good at doing my job, and
Yes.
people recognized that, and they paid me. But when they paid me, I mean, this is 1975, 1976. So I would get a pay raise of a quarter. All right.
Yes.
Um, and but I also was fortunate in that I knew the men who were working for this company, who were the sales team, who went out to the Pentagon and these other agencies to bid on the contracts. So they got to know me, and I've always, because of the fact that I was only child, because I was my family's first grandchild. So I was always comfortable being around older people. I gravitated toward older people, and so the older men who were working in that space took to me because I would sit down and listen. I'd talk to them about the business. I would pick their
Hmm.
brain for ideas and information. So once they laid out for me how the business worked, right, and where we fall in the pecking order, I realized that as long as I was working for someone else, I would never be compensated what I was due. And I could only go so far. So, working in that job for 2.5 years, I plotted my escape. I decided that I would use my talents and my hard work, since I was managing a team of artists in the evening when nobody else was in the building. Then I would use that time to make sure my work was done. And then I would use their equipment and their materials to produce work that I was bringing in during the day as I began planning my escape by creating my own design studio. So
Okay.
once I got to the point where I'm working in the daytime for myself, in the evening for the white man, once I got to the point where I was able to generate enough money during the day as I was making in the evening, then I quit that job and started working full time through my own design studio. That was 47 years ago. So I have not, I've
Wow.
had the benefit of not working for white people or crazy Negroes for 47 years.
Wow.
And
Wow.
that then afforded me the opportunity to do what I wanted to do. What did I want to do? I wanted to read, I wanted to learn about myself, and I wanted to travel to the places where I've read. So again, all of this is happening because of my understanding of karma, reciprocity,
Yeah.
cause and effect, that
Yes.
that I control my destiny, not someone else. And that the time that I invest in my life um, is reciprocal. I'll get that investment back. So by working for yourself, you see that in real time. And then in 1980, I met Dr. Ben at Howard University. Baba Zulu at Ujima Shule had brought
Yes.
him in for his annual
Legend.
fundraiser. I met
Yes.
Dr. Ben in October of 1980, and he mentioned that he was doing a trip to Egypt in December of 1980. So October, November, December. So I had 60 days um, to pay for the money for that first trip to Egypt. And at that time, it was relatively cheap compared to what the prices are now. And so
Okay.
I made a commitment to myself that I'm going to Egypt. And my commitment was so thorough, brother, that I looked at the total price for the trip. I wrote a check to cover the initial payment, and that
Mm-hmm.
check left me with the balance of $999.99. And I wrote three post-dated checks for $333.33. And I post-dated those checks 2 weeks apart. And I put all four checks in the envelope and mailed it into New York City and claimed my trip. And I had the money to pay off the trip in less than 2 weeks. Right. So
Wow.
so I know the power of spirit or God or whatever term you want to use to describe
Yes.
this phenomenon. I know that it's real. Um, and it's not hocus pocus. You know, it's reciprocity. So I did that 13-day trip on the Nile with Dr. Ben. I had the opportunity to see with my own eyes
Wow.
the evidence that destroyed all the lies that I had been taught throughout elementary school, high school, and college. All
Hmm.
right. So we returned from that trip in January of 1981. February of 1981, Baba Zulu at Ujima for Black History Month had Dr. Clark come in to speak. I met Dr. Clark and I fell in love. I said, hey, this is what I want to do. This is the person that I want to follow. So I had a roadmap. I had a black
Yeah.
print, if you
Yes.
will.
Yes. Yes.
And
Yes.
and so um, over the years, I've stuck to my plan, and my plan was to re-educate myself, to travel to places that I've read about, um, and see for myself, to travel to conferences, to read the authors of the books that I've read so that I can have a better understanding of the information that I was internalizing, because I did not want to be put in a situation where I was lied to by an author again. So it was all about verification, verification,
Yeah. Yeah.
verification. Check out your
Yeah.
sources. And so what I've been able to do, and I'll just give you the short version in 3 minutes. I can finish this in 3 minutes. So what I was able to do was in 1982, I created my second company. And my second company is called the Institute of Karmic Guidance. The
Okay.
Institute of Karmic Guidance, based on my understanding that the entire universe, our lives, are governed by karma, cause and effect. And once you understand that you have greater control over the trajectory of your life than you've ever been taught, then by taking responsibility and taking control, you can guide your life into the direction where you want to go. So through that second company, IKG, I began my first lecture at the University of Maryland. It was a 7-week lecture series where I had an opportunity to talk about my 13-day tour to Egypt. After that lecture ended, I came to WPFW and did that lecture series at WPFW when they were down
Yeah.
on 7th and 8th Street. And then after
Okay.
that, I'm now associated with the media. I know how to communicate with people because my background is in graphic design and advertising. So I know
Yeah.
how to sell product. I've learned how to sell myself.
Yes.
And so ultimately, I started doing lectures, and I would do my lectures at Howard University in what was then the Howard Inn, what became the Howard Inn, Howard's
Okay.
Hotel, and then I expanded that in 1987, and I created the Free Your Mind lecture series. And through the Free Your Mind lecture series, I was able to invite Dr. Clark, Dr. Ben, John Jackson, Asa Hilliard, Naeem Akbar, Wade Nobles, Amos
Wow.
Wilson, all of our scholars, Francis Welsing, Patricia Newton, all of the scholars that I had read and met at conferences, I began inviting them to Washington, D.C. So, because of the fact that I knew how to market information and that I developed relationships with, with WPFW, with WDCU, and I connected with WOL, Kathy Hughes at WOL. So I had 3
Okay.
radio stations that I had ready access to anytime I brought anybody into the city. And we would hit all of these radio stations to do interviews to draw people to the program that I was organizing, typically on a Friday evening. So all of our programs always sold out. And so I
Okay.
developed a reputation with all of these scholars. If Tony Browder invites you to DC for an event, one, you're going to get paid. Two,
Okay.
you're going to have a packed house. Three, you're going to sell all of your products. So
Okay.
all of these scholars then they knew me as a young person with an interest in the subject matter, but they saw me as a go-getter. They saw me
Yes.
as someone who understood business and someone who they could partner with and depend upon because I know from running my own business and just life in general that your word is your bond. And most
Yes.
people don't have follow through on what they say. So I was able to see as my relationship with these scholars, some of the most brilliant minds of the 20th century, evolved. They saw something in me and they allowed me to be around them, to hang on to their conversations. They came to my home, had dinner with me. And they would allow me to call them up whenever I had questions. So I developed meaningful relationships with them, which allowed me to get an education that you can't pay for.
No.
And so ultimately, my second trip to Egypt in 1985 led to me developing the Egypt on the Potomac field trip, which you talked about earlier in this conversation. That field trip is 40 years old
Wow.
this year, 40 years old. I began doing study tours in Egypt in 1987. I've been doing study tours for 39 years. Just last month, I did my 70th trip to Egypt after the passing of Asa Hilliard in 2007. As I was grieving the loss of Asa, I was blessed with an opportunity to create the Asa Restoration Project and was responsible then for raising the funds to excavate and restore Kushite tombs on the west bank of Luxor, Egypt. I'm the first person of African ancestry to fund an archaeological excavation and to coordinate archaeological excavations. And we did that for 15 years. We started
Yes.
off excavating 3 tombs, and we ended up having discovered over 40 tombs. Now,
Wow.
I say all of that to say that I have and I've written about 9 books and co-authored about 6 or 7 books. And
Wow.
all of my books that I've authored, I publish because I understand the publishing industry. I
Yeah.
understand the business side
Yes.
of publishing. So I say all of that to say that I have no formal training in research, writing, presentations, Egyptology, archaeology, or business, but I have been able to succeed in all of those endeavors because of my understanding of karma, cause and effect, certain spiritual principles that are available to everyone if you just take the time and learn them, then apply them. Right. So if I can offer anything to those listening to this program, I've have come to understand that yes, we live in a racist society. Yes, we live in a society where people are exploited. But people have always been exploited. But that does not limit your capacity to do what it is you have the capacity to do. When you understand the true nature of the universe, when you understand who you are as a child of the universe, then you have the capacity, but more importantly, you have the right and the obligation to use that knowledge in order to make the best quality of life for yourself, and by extension, your mate, your children, and for every person that you love. And this is something that we can do. This is something that needs to be taught to those who are willing to learn the lesson. And it's by doing those things consistently that we will rise to the level where we can change ourselves, change our environment, and ultimately change the world. So that was 5 minutes instead of 3 minutes. So I ran a little bit over. Please forgive me.
On this channel, we reason, Rastafari are not known to be short-winded. So you're in good company, according to our African tradition. And I think this is a good time to just examine what is Kemet. When we talk about Kemet, and then, I want to use this before we get into Egypt on the Potomac and the significance of how DC is laid out and how you
Hmm.
discovered that. I want to lay the foundation. Now that we have your biography, what is Kemet? When we talk about Kemet for the beginner, we have people here, and I think you would notice as well, a lot of our African family, because of the colonial education, we take for granted that they may know certain information.
Sure.
But when you go to Africa, you find there's a lack of Pan-African literature, Pan-African
Absolutely.
books, a lot of things we take for granted, especially coming from a Chicago, a New York, a DC. You touch into the continent and you're like, wow, there's a complete lack of knowledge. So for a global audience that is not aware, they see Egypt and they see the Arabs, they may know Gamal Abdul Nasser and that struggle. But what is Kemet? When we say Kemet, what are we talking about?
Right. Kemet is the original name for the country that the Greeks renamed Egypt. So, as a result of my travels to Egypt, what I learned is that most of the names of people, places, and things have been changed by conquerors and discoverers. So, if you don't know the original name of a person, of a place, or an object, you don't know squat.
Hmm.
So let me give you one example. Everyone is familiar with the statue that the Greeks refer to as the Sphinx,
Yes.
um, but that is not its name. So if you don't know the original name of that statue, the original name is I'm sure most of your listeners should be aware of. The original name for that statue is Her M Aket. Her M Aket means Heru on the horizon. Who is Heru? Heru in a literal well, these stories are based on myths.
Yes.
So according to the mythology, Heru was the son of God. That's who Heru
Okay.
was, the son of
Yes.
God. Heru was born of a virgin. Heru was
Okay.
born to avenge the murder of his father, and to restore his father's kingdom. So Heru then becomes, and we know Heru better by his Greek name, Horus. Right.
Hmm.
So if you change the name of a person or a place or a thing, you change its vibration, you change its energy, you change its essence. And as long as we use European names to describe or to call on African personalities, they ain't gonna answer.
Hmm.
Because you got to use the right digits to call somebody. You have to use the right digits in an email address to reach somebody. You can't call and, you know, well, I'm not going to get into this because we can take this conversation in a whole lot of directions. I want to keep us moving forward. Uh, I want to keep us moving forward. So Kemet is the original name for the country that the Greeks called Egypt.
Yes.
And when we begin to look at Kemetic culture and civilization, we understand that the Kemet was the child of Ethiopia or
Okay.
Abyssinia, right?
Yes.
Egypt is a Greek word. Sudan is an Arabic word.
Yes.
Ethiopia is a Greek word.
Mm-hmm.
So until you can identify these geographic locations by the names that the indigenous people call them, you are being misled. You aren't able to tap into the ancestral energy that is there when you know how to call ancestors by their proper name. Right. So these are
Okay.
all basic and fundamental to us restoring our consciousness because one of the things that keeps us thinking with a colonial mindset is speaking their language, using their terminology, and thinking that Africa is the land of backwards, savage people. When
Mm.
we, uh, when our consciousness evolves, our thinking evolves, our language evolves, and our capacity to connect with our ancestors expands. And that is what our oppressor fears the most. And as a consequence, they are doing everything within their power to
Yes.
prevent us from accessing this information. I used to get angry, but
Mm-hmm.
now I don't because I understand this is what they have to do. This is their nature. They
Yes.
exist to create and maintain confusion, or what they used to call in Kemet isfet, disorder. That's what they exist to do. So to expect them not to do what they're born to do is foolishness on your part. So
Yes.
know them, study
Yes.
them, see how our lives have interacted over eons, and then decide the best course of action for you in order for you to come into the fullness of yourself. And I've learned that by my travels to Egypt now, because Egypt has been controlled by the Arabs since 648, and possessions
Yes.
is 9/10 of the law. So if you control the land, you control the history of the land. You can make the false claim that the pyramids and the temples and the tombs and the monuments were built by people of Arab ancestry. That's a
Yes.
lie. And
Yes.
anyone who understands history can dismantle that lie and then begin to dig into the research, dig into the archives, and even dig into the ground and find the evidence to support your thoughts. So once you find that evidence, it ain't about convincing the Arabs that they're wrong or convincing the white folk that they're wrong. It's about convincing yourself and your people. That's the only thing that matters.
What does Kemet mean? And who was Horus's father and mother? And how were they seen by contemporary Egyptians, in terms of how did that factor into the society? How did that
Sure,
impact that story? Because this story forms the basis of what would later come as the Christ story, which
sure.
I tell people that the Hebrews were an extension of Nile Valley civilization, the African Hebrews. But I want our audience to understand the cosmology of Kemet, and then the connection with Meroe. And you talked about Kush, Abyssinia, Ethiopia. If
Hmm.
you can go more into what does Kemet mean, and then the cosmology. Who was Heru and parents, and what was that story?
Okay.
Give us that story.
Okay, I'll do the short version, brother, because I can do a 2-hour discussion just answering that question. Kemet means the land of the blacks.
Yes.
Kush, now modern day Sudan, means the land of the blacks. Ethiopia means in Greek the land of the blacks. So that portion of the Nile Valley was all populated by indigenous African people, black people. It does not
Yes.
mean the black land. as Egyptologists will tell you. No, it
Yes.
means the land of the black people, the black people. So black was associated with God, the creator. Black was
Yeah.
associated with power. The story that became the foundational mythology
Mm-hmm.
of Kemet rose out of Cush, and by having a relationship or having a conversation with brother Holly Garima at
Yeah.
Sankofa, Holly was the person who pulled my coat and said, Tony, you and Asa spend all your time talking about Egypt, but all of that stuff comes out of Ethiopia. So I've come to learn how correct Holly Garima was/is. That
Yes.
you asked me to tell the story of Heru or
Yes.
Horus. Horus
Yes.
was a son of Asar and Aset.
Yes.
Asar and Aset have their origins in Ethiopia, and their origin story goes back at least 10 to 12,000 years. That
Wow.
origin story flows down the Nile Valley into Kush, and it is from Kushite history and culture that we get the story of Asar and Aset coming out of Cush into Kemet. Asar unified the two lands and formed the first nation state in Kemet. He introduced agriculture, he introduced writing, he introduced theology or God concepts. And then
Okay.
Asar had as his bride a lovely Cushite/Ethiopian sister by the name of Aset. Asar then decided to leave Kemet, the land of the blacks, and go to other parts of the African continent to share his technology with them. And he left
Okay.
his wife to run their nation. According to the myth, this is a myth that is at least 6,000 years old in Kemet, but it's maybe 10 to 15,000 years older in 10 to 15,000 years old in Ethiopia. Asar was murdered by his brother Set, and his body was cut into multiple pieces. Aset searched for the missing parts of her husband's body, um, and then she found all of the parts of her husband's body except one, and then wrapped his body in bandages and prepared to bury him. It took a set 70 days to find the pieces of her husband's body, to clean them, and to prepare him for burial, and then wrapped his body in bandages. So a set is responsible for literally remembering her
Mm-hmm.
husband, right?
Yes.
That 70 days also became the time frame for the process of mummification in Kemet for the next 3,000 years. So even though
Okay.
the story is a myth, this myth was the foundation upon which this civilization rose and evolved. So here's where the story gets deep, brother.
Okay.
Um, Aset was about to bury the man that she loved. She grieved because she would never interact with her husband again. She also grieved, according to what Dr. Ben and other scholars have said, because she was still a virgin. She and her husband had never consummated their marriage. So the spirit of Asar came and impregnated his virgin wife, Aset. So when I take people on study tours to Egypt, we take them to the temple of Abydos, where that story is carved in stone. Abydos is the oldest temple in Kemet, and it's
God.
built on a foundation that goes all the way back to the Old Kingdom.
Hmm.
At least 5,000, 6,000 years. And so there's a scene where a set is being impregnated by the spirit of her deceased husband. 9 months later, Aset the virgin gives birth to her son, Heru. Heru was born on the same birth date as his father, December the 25th. Heru was born of a virgin, and he was born with this specific mission, the specific task to restore his father's kingdom. So that
Hmm.
story then becomes the basics, the DNA for Jesus, right? The
Yes.
Jesus myth. And I would
Yes.
stress it that way because if you understand the history and the evolution of African spiritual traditions and look at it with an open mind, you will find that the roots of Judaism, Christianity, and Islam are nothing but the distillation of ancient African sacred science. I mean, and
Yes.
that's what it is. I'm convinced
Yes.
after 50 years of study and all these trips,
Yes.
that is
Yes.
what it is. And so Heru then was born to avenge the murder of his father, which he did. And there's a temple in Egypt called Edfu, where that story is carved in stone. And then Heru became the prototype for how human beings should live their lives by manifesting the God consciousness within them all. It is from the African word Heru that we have derived the word hero. So
Yes.
Heru is the personification of the hero, and then that myth evolved. It not only became the foundation for Christianity, the Jesus story, but it became the foundation um, for Star Wars. It became the foundation story for Superman. It became the
Yes.
foundation story for Batman. It became
Yes.
the foundation story for The Lion King. All of
Yes.
these stories are nothing but extensions of an ancient African mythology. And so I want to make this point, and then I'll be quiet so you can throw some more
No,
questions
no,
at
no.
me.
We're loving it. We're loving it. This is a blockbuster film. We're watching it. All right, continue.
So we talked earlier about the theme to your show about the lion telling their
Yes.
own story, right?
Yes.
That's a wonderful concept. It's a concept, brother. It's a wonderful concept. But you got to remember, some lions are really lying. They ain't
Yes.
telling the truth.
This
So
is
you
true.
got to discern which
Yes.
lion you listening to. Are
Yes.
you listening to Simba? Are you
Yes.
listening to Mufasa? Or are you
Yes.
listening to Scar? Not all
Yes.
lions are telling the truth. Right? So
True.
we've got to develop discernment. And in order to develop discernment, we've got to read, we've got to expand our minds, we've got to know what is true, what is half truth, and what is a total lie. And then we have to have the courage, and this is where it gets deep. We have to have the courage to step back from those things that we know are not true. Not
Yes.
be judgmental, but step back from those things that we know are not true and dig deeper into those things that our heart tells us is a foundation that we can build the rest of our lives on. And not everybody has the capacity to do that. And I understand that. I accept that. I'm not being judgmental. I'm being realistic. There are some people who need certain belief systems, they need
Yes.
certain structure in order
Yes.
to live their lives. And I get that. And if that's what it takes for you to be a righteous person, is that if that's what it takes for you to take care of your business, then bless you. But I also understand that the tree of African spirituality has many branches, and many of those branches have been presented throughout the world as different religions or different subsets of religious thoughts and ideas. And what really concerns me is that when people become so entrenched in their beliefs
Mm-hmm.
that they are intolerant of any belief that conflicts with theirs. This
Yes.
cognitive dissonance, they have all these terms to describe that, but it's important to know and understand that a belief is something you accept without proof. And we
Yes.
live in a world, we live in a physical world where things can be proven, right? And once you apply certain principles to test the validity of a belief, then what you will find is that knowledge cancels out belief. And
Yes.
I'll take knowledge over belief every single day because
Every
knowledge
single
is what
day.
rules the
Yeah.
world.
How do the ancient Babylonian, Sumer, Acadia, all of those civilizations fit into, because these are extensions of the Nile Valley civilization, even according to the biblical narrative that says Nimrod was a son of Cush,
Right.
and these things. So the ancient people always saw, Babylonian civilization as an extension of the Nile Valley. How does that fit in based on your decades of research?
So if we read Chancellor Williams' Destruction of Black Civilization, there is a quote at the beginning of the book um, where a young boy asked an old man, "What happened to the people of Sumer?" Ah, the
Mhm.
old man sighed. They lost their history and they died.
Right.
Right? So, what we learn from that reading and from the works of John G. Jackson is that all of those cultures, ancient cultures, were spawned by African people from the Nile Valley. They were extensions of Nile
Yes.
Valley culture and civilization. But what we also have to understand is the politics of knowledge. White folk, when they discovered Egypt and saw that the ancient history that they found was all black, was all African, they needed to find another focal point which they could promote as the beginning of history, culture, science, and civilization. So they zeroed in on Mesopotamia because it was outside of Africa. It was in Asia. As a
Yes.
matter of fact, it was John D. Rockefeller who sent James Breasted, who was one of America's foremost Egyptologists at that time, to Mesopotamia to do research to validate that the origins of religion and culture and humanity developed outside of Africa. Breasted took his money, went over there, did research, and came back and said, I can't find anything in Mesopotamia that's older than what we found in Egypt. And so they had to change the narrative. That change was we got to take Egypt out of Africa. Egypt is in the Middle East now. The Egyptians are not black, they are dark skinned Caucasians, as James
Yes.
Henry Breasted wrote of them in his revision of Ancient Times in 1936. So it's about hijacking historical and cultural memory and placing people in a time and a place where they never existed, and then presenting themselves to the world as the originator of concepts and ideas that they had nothing to do with.
Amazing, amazing. Talk about we'll go to Mesopotamia. Talk about Kenya, Uganda, because we often don't talk about what was happening on the White Nile part of the Nile Valley branch. What was happening in those regions, and how was that connected to Nile Valley civilization on the White Nile side of things?
Sure. Again, channeling, echoing the words of St. John Henry Clark. Clark often referred to as the Nile River as the world's oldest and longest cultural highway. The Nile River is approximately 4,200 miles long. It is fed by two tributaries. The origin of the Nile begins up south in the highlands of Africa in Uganda, and the water from the White Nile flows. I forget the exact distance, but it flows down through Uganda, Kenya, and Sudan, and then it meets with the waters that comes out of the Blue Nile in Lake Tana in Ethiopia at the city now known as Khartoum,
Cartoon.
where
Yes.
it forms the singular Nile River, which then flows through Lower Kush, Lower Sudan, and the entirety of Kemet slash Egypt, and it empties out into the Mediterranean Sea. So this is what we know through the study of geography. We now know that by the time the water from the White Nile reaches Khartoum, 90% of that water has evaporated, which means that the primary tributary responsible for giving life to the Nile Valley comes out of Ethiopia,
Yes.
comes out of the Blue Nile. And not
Yes.
only does the water come out of the Blue Nile, but every year when Lake Tana floods, it also brings with it the rich soil, the rich volcanic soil of
Yes.
Ethiopia. And that soil then, we're now in the season of the flooding of the Nile, the
Yes.
inundation, the flooding
Yes.
of the Nile. And so for 3 months, the Nile River overflows its banks a mile in each direction, a mile to the east and a mile to the west, and it covers the land with the most fertile soil in the world. Right?
Yes.
That's what made the Nile Valley so valuable. And
Yes.
Ethiopia is the source of that life.
Yes.
So you have the most fertile land on earth, which is where, and you have the river as a cultural highway where people, knowledge, information, goods, and services migrated from inner Africa to Northeast Africa. And so I've had a chance to travel to Ethiopia 3 times and go to Lake Tana and see see the source of the Nile River, to see this rich volcanic soil. Ethiopia, man, has the darkest soil I've ever seen on this planet. It's a beautiful, beautiful country. I've been to Kenya, once or twice, I think,
Yes.
and visiting the museums in Kenya, I saw aspects of Kenyan history that show traces of
Yes.
Nile Valley civilization, but I haven't had an opportunity to do any
We're
research.
doing the
I have
research.
not been to Uganda yet,
Uganda,
but
yes.
from having conversations with friends who live there and who've been trying to get me there, um, I have a inkling that I will find in Uganda elements of the foundational elements of Nile Valley civilization
Yes. Yes.
that were further refined in Kemet thousands of miles later, thousands of years later. So there's so much more that I want to do, so much more that I want to research, and
Yes.
time is tight, which is why I'm using my time more judiciously. So this
Yes.
year, I'm doing my last study tour to Egypt in December of this year.
Yes.
So I will close the book on that part of my life. I think 71 trips is enough. I've been to Egypt more than I've been back to Chicago, brother. So
Wow.
there's other
Wow.
places in Africa I want to visit. There's other things that I want to explore. There's other
Yes.
information that I want to gain access to so that I could write my best work over the course of the next 5 years.
Mighty, mighty, mighty. If you're watching live, this is a classic episode. We have the legendary, and I say that without apology, Anthony Browder, 71 trips to Kemet, a plethora of books, the first person of African descent to lead an excavation on the banks of the Luxor. This is history in the making. We want to make sure that we overstand the power of the moment. If you love what you're hearing, put some emojis in the comment section. Let me know where you're watching from as we welcome our elder, Baba Anthony Browder. Let him know how international we're little, but we're Talawa. So please put in the comments where you're watching from because it's a global audience. What I want to know now is we talked about basic Kemet. We talked about connections to Kush, to Sumar, to Uganda. Uh, what I want to talk about now is what you saw, on these walls. You're talking about things that are carved in the rock, the Metu nature, the laws of Ma'at. These are terms that, we hear bandied about. But now researching, going on the ground, describe some of the things that you saw that blew your mind and that connected you to this ancient civilization.
Let me just share with you some of my highlights, brother. Give you a
Yes.
sense of some of my experiences during my very first trip to Egypt in December of 1980. On my second night in Egypt, myself and two other brothers who I met on that trip came back to Giza, and we climbed the pyramid at sunrise. I stood on
Hmm.
top of the pyramid. I have a photograph of me and my two friends standing on the top of the pyramid. Later on that morning, I have another photograph of us standing in between the paws of Haramakhet, the Sphinx.
Yes.
2 days after that, I had the opportunity to spend about 90 minutes in the pyramid by myself in the
Yes.
dark. The lights were
Wow.
out. The pyramid was closed, but I convinced the guard to let me in because I had a flashlight and I had been in there before, so I kind of knew my way around. He let me in. And so
Wow.
I was in the pyramid by myself for 90 minutes, had a phenomenal meditation in the king's chamber of the pyramid. And I did not realize it at the time. I had this vision, if you will, of,
Wow.
of my life flashing before me, and I saw these things that were just images in my mind that did not mean anything to me. But as I now process them from a more refined position in life, I now realize that one of the images that I saw in December of 1980 was the tomb that we had restored of a 25th dynasty Kushite priest by the name of Karakamen. Um, I saw an image that I would not see in real life until 2012.
Wow.
Okay. So when I talk about Kemet, I talk about Kemet not just from a historical perspective, but from a personal perspective. I have put myself at risk, um, knowing that I was protected in order to have certain experiences that have validated my understanding of my capacity as a spiritual being, having a human experience who has been able to remember aspects of my prior existence such that I could use that knowledge today to find and uncover and restore tombs that are 2,700 years old, right?
Wow.
And in the process of doing this work, I'll share with you um, the most important thing that I have found in all of my travels to Egypt. I made a discovery 10 years ago, 2016, after I had done a trip to Sudan with Renoko Rashidi, came back to Egypt for a conference that we had organized, where we brought together teams of Egyptologists who were also excavating 25th dynasty tombs. And we came together to share our information and to visit various sites. So during one of these site visits, I saw two tombs. One was a 25th dynasty tomb, another was a 26th dynasty tomb. And being the only African American in this group, one who has an understanding in art, design, and architecture, I'm always investigating any environment that I'm in. I'm looking at every details, taking it all in,
Okay.
processing it.
Okay.
I found painted on the ceiling of these two tombs what is now recognized as the heart-shaped Akoma Adinkra symbol that is associated with the Akan in Ghana, West Africa. So what I have been able to
Wow.
do, brother, is to document the origins of that symbol and trace its origins back to Kush to at least 1600 BC. There's a piece of pottery in the Metropolitan Museum that has this symbol on it, right? And so what that discovery has allowed me to understand is that the Kemetic documents that have been put forth by Abubakar Lam, who's a colleague of Sheikh Anta Diop, Senegalese scholar, Senegalese historian, wrote a book called Paths from the Nile, in which he documented 6 migrations out of the Nile River Valley
Mhm.
across the continent to the Niger River Valley, where there was a deliberate transference of knowledge and people and technology, which
Okay.
jump started spiritual traditions, cultural traditions, astronomical traditions in Ghana, in Senegal, in Nigeria, in Cameroon, and the last location that we know this transference was made is Mali among the Dogon. So,
Okay.
so this has opened up a whole new area of research, which I want to spend more time documenting, connecting with sisters and brothers who live in those West African countries, who have oral traditions of their
Yes.
ancestors having migrated from the Nile Valley. As a matter of fact, let me share this with you, and then I'll be quiet and let you throw a couple of questions because I got to get off at 10 o'clock, so we don't have a
Okay.
lot of
Yes.
time left.
Yes. Yes. Yes.
Brother Kalechi was responsible for introducing me to you, hence me
Yes.
being on this show. Well, Brother
Yes.
Kalechi was on my study tour to Egypt last month. Kalechi is from Nigeria.
Yes.
He's Igbo, correct?
Yes. That's
And
correct.
so what Kalechi shared with us on that trip was that someone within his family had done their DNA, and their DNA showed that the men in his family carry the same haplogroup genome as Ramesses III of the 19th dynasty. All right. He shared that with the group. There was another brother on that same trip who's from Northern Virginia, and he also did a similar DNA study, and his patrilineal DNA matched the same patrilineal DNA of Ramesses II. Right. So
Wow.
what that means is the things that I have been piecing together over the decades are not just theories or concepts and ideas. We have the historical evidence, the literary evidence, the geographical evidence, and now the genetic evidence to link Africans from the Nile with Africans from the Niger, and Africans from the Niger to Africans living in America in the diaspora. So we can now say with crystal clarity that we are them. We are those ancestors. And what I know to be true, what I know to be true, brother, is that to the extent to which we acknowledge our ancestors, and invite them into our lives, invite them into our homes, is the extent to which they will come. And once they come, they will inspire you, they will inspirit you, and provide insights and information that allows them to now speak and tell their story for the first time in 2, 3, 4, 5,000 years. And they've got so much information that they want to share. We just have to cultivate more bodies that are willing to be good listeners so that they can speak through them and get the word out.
We don't have enough time. This we're just scratching the surface, but this is a
Oh,
joy.
yeah.
This is a joy. I'm starting to see this rise of the FBA, which they have a lot of anti-African rhetoric. I was trying to ignore it, but I'm starting to see it creep into my comment section.
Yeah.
And I like to ask, especially elders, because what I realized very quickly is that you can't really debate a lot of these brothers and sisters because they don't read and they don't know the history very well of how integrated the story of African people has been on every continent. It's very hard to parse out, our story when you start looking at our history. So I wanted to hear from you as an elder. What do you think about this rising anti-African, or let me not even characterize it as anti-African, but
No,
people that,
no. You're calling it. Well, no, you're calling it
yes,
what it is.
okay,
That's the correct term to use.
okay,
Afrophobia is what I
yes,
call it.
yes, okay. But how do
Mhm.
you feel? Because you've seen cycles. This is nothing new. This is just like the Yoruba tribalists. This is just like the Jamaica tribalists. We have them in every country. We have them in but it's now gaining popularity in America. How do you feel as an elder, and what do you have to say about this rising sentiment?
Well, I can say very simply that COINTELPRO never ended.
Okay.
COINTELPRO never ended. And there have always been efforts on the part of this government and other governments to suppress this knowledge so that we African people can be controlled by others. And there have always been people, some willingly, some through sheer ignorance, who have participated in the suppression of this knowledge. So that's just a fact of life. This is nothing
Yes.
new. It's always happened. And the
Yes.
key is to be on the right side of history. The
Yes.
key is to read and study so that you can be clear about what you're talking about. And one of the lessons that I've learned, one of the most important lessons that I've learned is to never argue with a fool because they will drag you down to their level and beat you with experience.
Yes. It's so true. It's so true. We have some. I want to just touch some questions quickly. We have the legend here in the house. You've heard it from him. This is Tony the Tiger the Great, one of our regular contributors. He's asking if you were esoterically raised by Dr. Ben Yosef Yochanan in an ancient Kemetic site.
I was in the early 90s, and I've grown I've grown since then.
Okay.
There's a wealth of information out there, and there's more waiting to be explored and uncovered.
Beautiful. And I think that's important that we haven't even scratched the surface of African archaeology and research, because it doesn't get the funding that, say,
Exactly.
sites in Europe and other places that they get. Let me see here. If you have questions, put them in the comment section. I know I'm going to miss them. There's a lot of comments here. I want to big up Respect, Made in Hawaii, Black Imani
Oh,
Books.
good. I'm glad. So, brother, you need to reach out to me. Let me give you my email address, browderfile@yahoo.com.
Okay. You
I've
remember
got
this
a good
brother?
friend,
Yes.
Browderfile, BROWDERFILE @yahoo.com. Reach out to me, brother. I've got a friend who used to live in Virginia, retired Air Force. He
Yes.
and his family have relocated to Hawaii, and he just reached out to me 2 weeks ago about bringing me to Hawaii.
Okay.
So it's been decades since I've been there, and I would like to connect you with my buddy Scott so that you all can work together to make that happen, possibly sometime next year.
Give thanks. We have Dr. Jolivet watching from Vermont. Big up yourself, Dr. Jolivet from St. Michael's College. We have Tony the Tiger watching from the Milky Way. He's our resident comedian and scholar.
Okay.
He's a comedian and scholar. Let me not
Well, you got to have a
mess with.
sense of humor, man, to
Yeah,
do this work.
exactly. We have Tulsa, Oklahoma checking in. Big up Super Citizen. Give thanks for the great comedic master teacher Tony Browder, New Orleans, checking in. Beautiful. We have Carrollton, Georgia. Big up Prince William. We have Rootsman Sonny. Big up Rootsman Sonny coming out of Aruba. We have DJ Rebellion. One of the books I read in early chart in Search for the Truth from the Tony Browder file. Highest respect. That's Atlanta, Georgia. Checking in. We have St. Lucia, our elder Bongo Wisely, checking in. We have our elder Johnny Johnson, who is currently in New Mexico, but from Brooklyn. How important, he's asking, how important is the Solomonic dynasty, Triple Crown, and the Talahido African Orientalist Church of Abyssinia and Beta Israel, and the Bible of Ethiopia, Book of Enoch, and Dr. Ben being born in Gondar?
Right.
That's a mouthful.
It's a
But
mouthful.
is it?
Dr. Ben was of mixed parentage. One of his parents was from Ethiopia, and I believe his mother was from Ethiopia. His father was from Puerto Rico.
Yes.
And let me just share this with you in all honesty. Um, I tend to stay away from discussions about religion
Yes.
because it gets very
Touchy.
involved and very
Yes.
divisive.
Yes.
And what I can share with you was this: I've been to Ethiopia 3 times, and the last time that I was there in 2014, we visited all of the monasteries in Lalibela, and then we went to visit the monastery on the other side of Lake Tana. And I was surprised and quite disappointed to see that these monasteries had now replaced the African images of
Yes.
Jesus with white images of Jesus.
Yes.
So I know that corruption and misinformation has seeped into every
Yes.
aspect of
Every
our
aspect.
culture in every corner of the world. And so, I step back and I look at things from a broader perspective. And I also have a greater desire to get closer to the source. So, as
Yes.
I stated earlier, through specifically through the writings of John G. Jackson
Yes.
and John Henry Clark, right? I had the pleasure, I had the honor in 1989 to bring together Dr. Jackson, Dr. Clark, and Dr. Ben at a two-day
Wow.
event at the University of DC called the Elder Symposium. It was the first time these three brothers had been together in one space in 20
Wow.
years. John Jackson taught John Henry Clark. John Henry Clark and John Jackson taught Dr. Ben, right?
Wow.
And Jackson was one of the most brilliant minds I've ever met in my life. So his two books, Introduction to African Civilization and Man, God, and Civilization, lays out the framework for much of my understanding. And so what I know beyond a shadow of a doubt is that Judaism, Christianity, and Islam are but a small fragment of the spiritual systems that developed in Kemet and throughout the Nile Valley. So
Yes.
my desire has always been to go to get as
The
close to the
root.
primary sources as
Yes.
possible, as opposed to the secondary sources, because they've been filtered, they've been watered down. What I
Yes.
know is this. I can say this definitively. What I know is that there was no fall from grace. What I know is that people were never separated from God. That
Hmm.
is a story which some people made up in order to create a movement and an organization where they could have this hierarchical relationship within their tradition. So I
Hmm.
know, based on what I have experienced and what I've done with my own life, we were never separated from the Creator. I also know, and I'm at the point now where I'm 75 years old. I can say what I
Yes.
want to say
Yes.
now.
Say what you want, Baba.
Um,
Go ahead.
you know, people are always talking about God this, God this, God
Yes.
that, God
Yes.
that.
Yes.
What people don't know is that if you know where to go, you can go into the Nile Valley. Specifically, you can go into specific tombs in the Nile Valley and you can see God's mother. Yeah. You can see the woman who gave birth to God. And if you
Hmm.
have a strong enough historical foundation, if you've done the research, you can see God's grandmother.
Hmm.
Sit on that for a minute, all right? Sit on that and understand what that means.
Huh.
Right. So, not everybody is ready. I get that.
Yes.
And I
Yes.
don't
Yes.
believe in proselytizing. Everyone
No.
is entitled to believe
Yes.
whatever they want to believe. That's your right. And I'm not here to challenge anybody
No.
or to
No.
try to
No.
change your
We're
mind.
sharing. We're
I'm
sharing.
I'm here to share what I know. I only talk about what I know, not
Yes.
what I think, not what I believe in, but what I know. And I offer this advice to those who are willing to listen. If you don't want to embrace it, fine. It's not going to hurt me.
Mm-hmm.
But I want to build with people who have the strength and the courage to expand themselves beyond this particular lifetime, right? And to understand who they were and what they have been in prior lifetimes. And then to combine that understanding so that you can shape your lifetimes in the future. That's what karmic guidance is all about. That's what this
Yes.
whole thing is all about. And when you can examine it on that level, then your life is truly yours to live to the fullest.
I'm gonna seal with the final question from our elder Bongo Wisely. He's asking, what is the difference between reincarnation and incarnation?
Well, so reincarnation is a term um, that is comes from us from the West. It means to return to the flesh. And I
Okay.
would imagine returning to the flesh is the incarnation of spirit
Okay.
into the flesh. But I'll add another element that is worthy of note, and that is in Kemet, the term wasn't reincarnation. The
Okay.
term was Rehime Mesu. Rehime Mesu means the repetition of the birth. So it
Hmm.
speaks to the process of the soul being born again into a new body. And what I can do, we can say this for a future broadcast. I can
Yes.
share with you the Kemetic texts that
Yes.
represent the Rehime Mesu. We can go back 4 or 5,000 years. I can share with you the documentation. So I'm not just making this
Yes,
stuff up. I
no,
can
no,
share
no. We
with
love
you
it.
images in two tombs in the Valley of the Kings, where this concept is depicted on the walls of two tombs. So I'm not, making this stuff up. I've done the
Yes,
research, I've done the
yes,
study, and I've got the receipts.
yes,
Now,
yes, yes.
and I want to share this information with people who are ready to receive it. I'm not here to debate or argue with anybody about
No,
this.
no.
I'm here to teach and to share with those who want to learn.
Unity does not mean uniformity. We
Hmm.
preach that on this channel. We don't, the glory of Africa has never been a monolith. There has been no African society or civilization where there was monolithic thought. You know what I mean? So, when you dig into these ancient societies, you find there was offshoots. You know,
Yeah.
there was some people that probably only deal with a set. Some people probably only want to deal with a SAR, and it spring off into its own, just like you have Pentecostal, Baptist. That's
Exactly.
humanity. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
So there was always debates and arguments and difference. But the key where we have thrived as African people is where we've put aside our petty differences and put a bigger cause and work together. And this is actually the story and the triumph of Ethiopia coming into the modern era. Why Ethiopia was able to defeat the scramble for Africa
Mm,
was because the adversaries of Emperor Menelik were able to put down their differences and to join
mm,
with the emperor at the Battle of Adwa and come out victorious. You know what I mean? So
right.
this is a proven principle, and it's Pan-African. And I say that Pan-African is the only strategy that has a proven track record against our oppressor. So I give thanks for you taking your time, Baba. I just want to give you an opportunity to say your final sound for the global family. This has been an honor. This is a classic episode. I'm sure it will circulate throughout the global Rastafari community. We are happy to rejoin our Pan-African brothers because I think that we are witnessing the end of an era. We are watching the collapse of one of the mightiest empires in recorded history
Absolutely.
and the rebirth of ancient empires of old, and the earth kind of restoring its equilibrium, Africa rising, the price of gold
Mm,
skyrocketing, which is going to flip. All of the fiat currency countries are going to become poor. All of the countries with the mineral resources are going to become wealthy. We're watching that in real time. The re-emergence of the great empires of Mali. When we talk about AES,
mm.
remember we're talking about Mali, Burkina Faso, Niger. We're talking about the ancient offshoots of Kemet that are returning once again to their former glory. So we didn't get a chance to talk about all that, Baba. That's part two. This was just the intro to Baba Anthony Browder. So please give us your final words to the global family and give thanks once again.
Sure. We evoked the name of Brother Haile Garima during this
Yes,
conversation. Haile's got a new documentary. I think it's a
yes,
six-part documentary, Black Lions, White Wolves,
yes,
that documents the second attempt of Italy, Mussolini, to invade Ethiopia, to seek revenge from their losses at the Battle of Adwa. I've seen segments of this film, and it's something that I'm encouraging everyone to watch and to support, because we're going to need that sort of inspiration as we prepare for the
yes,
battles that lay ahead. I want to encourage people to read, and not just read what you see on the internet. The internet is a tool that was created by the CIA to serve as an agent of disinformation. There
hmm,
is a field of study called agnotology, which is the promotion of confusion, of ignorance, of disinformation. That's happening in real time. As
yes,
I said, COINTELPRO never ended. It's taken on a new form. And many of the people who profess to have our interests at heart are only interested in being on the payroll of our oppressors. So don't be foolish, folk. Use good sense, use good judgment, use reason, and and stick with those who have a track record of truth.
Yes.
Shy away from those people who have questionable backgrounds, questionable actions, because we don't have time to waste. The
No.
last thing I want to share with you, I'll give out my web
Yes,
address.
please,
It's
please.
it's ikg-info.com, ikg-info.com. You'll find information about our upcoming last two field trips of this year in October and November. And you'll also find information on a webinar that I'm doing next Thursday on the history, the music, and the metaphysics of Maurice White and Earth, Wind, and Fire. You can see I've got Maurice White's albums in the
Yes, yes,
background. I'm
yes,
doing my
yes.
research for that. There is a very important message about this organization and this man that we need to get a better understanding of how he was exposed to certain historical, cultural, metaphysical information during the decade that he spent in my hometown, Chicago, the people that he learned African history from, the people that he learned a deeper understanding of spirit and how spirit presents itself, embeds itself in music, and is internalized by people who hear it and feel the rhythm. All of this is a part of a story that I am going to share next Thursday. So if you go to my website, you find details on that and other activities that I'm engaged in. And brother, I want to thank you for this opportunity, and I look forward to chopping it up with you and your listeners at some point in time in the future.
Definitely. Thank you, Baba Browder. Blessings. And I will definitely thank Baba Kalechi for making this happen. It was an honor. And take care. Have a blessed evening.
You're quite welcome, my brother. Stay strong. Peace.
Take care. Blessings. Blessings. There you have it, family. Baba Anthony Browder. We are showing that Rastafari is a valuable part of our Pan-African global family. We are reestablishing, we are rebuilding those bridges because we're going to need them as we progress. This is being recorded before the collapse of the global energy crisis. Remember, I told everyone about the Straits of Hormuz. We were talking about that 2 years ago, that the Straits of Hormuz was going to collapse. We're seeing it, the Red Sea is closed, 30% of the global energy supply has been removed from circulation. Food shortages, they're projecting. But I have a different narrative. I think that the lack of energy is going to create an African renaissance because they've been flooding this chemical fertilizer from the Persian Gulf into Africa. They've been flooding us with their products, with their reliance, and taking it off is going to create ingenuity on the continent. In the same way that they thought COVID was going to lead to the destruction of Africa and there would be bodies on the street and Africa feared the best. I believe that this third world war that we see unfolding is going to divert the resources that have been used to suppress Africa and lead to an African renaissance, because I think we underestimate the impact and the power of the suppression on the natural evolution of Africa that is taking place. Remember, His Majesty Emperor Haile Selassie I said, the tide that's sweeping Africa cannot be stopped. No force on earth is great enough to halt or reverse the trend. Its march is as relentless and inexorable as the passage of time. So they're trying to hold back a tidal wave, these colonialists, but they cannot do it. And they're going to be diverting their attention to the Arabs. You know, we're going to witness the European and the Persian and the Arab and the Russian and the Europeans in a massive war that is unfolding for global supremacy. The Chinese will be involved too. And I believe, this is my belief now, that Africa, because they all need it for the resource, will be given that space to develop and to rise and to grow and to become what it's been destined to become. So in this time, collective security becomes the order of the day. In this time, we have to fund our own uprising. So if you love what you saw today, ask yourself, why am I not a monthly subscriber to the Lion Voice Network? Why don't I want to give $5 or $10 to the rising of Rastafari media, that we could go on a trip with Anthony Browder with a camera crew and hire an editor and create that type of content. I think we've proven the access that we have to our Pan-African greats, and we have more coming. Don't bother feel like we just we seal up, we have many more over the coming months. Giants, we're working behind the scenes to bring them on the platform. We want to document them before they become ancestors. So we're working hard. I would like to do this work full time, to be honest, because I realize how crucial it is for us to capture these voices while they're here. We have whole heap of work to do. We're just getting started. Big up to everyone who see the vision and who have started supporting already. Big up to those who will come. We are doing it. We're not talking about doing it. We are doing it. Join us Saturday. And we may have a pop-up on Friday. I'm going to let the item know. We may have a special pop-up episode on Friday. Stay tuned. If you're not a part of our Patreon, you can join for free as well to get notifications. Also, we have a WhatsApp group. We have, all of the Facebook, our Instagram, TikTok now. We're over 3,000 followers on TikTok. We're growing across multiple platforms. So make sure you plug in somewhere, but make sure that we have your email most importantly, so that if we ever get kicked off of YouTube, we can still keep the link with the global family. But I tell the item, I love the item. I hope you full enjoyed this evening reasoning as much as I did. There were so many places I wanted to take it, but it's part one. We just, it's the first time the elders coming on the platform. So we just have to touch, but we're going to get deeper dive. And you hear the elders say you want to come forward with documentation and receipts. We're going to do all of that. You know what I mean? I'm working on some other elders. I'm not going to say their names until we secure them, but just know that we are working. And this is for the glory, not just of I and I. This is for the glory of Rastafari, independent, non-aligned media. Also, we're going to be bringing forward Bongo Jerry Small, all of our regulars. Raseku is going to be co-hosting our Pan-African Roundtable Saturday morning. We're going to drop the lineup tomorrow for the Pan-African Roundtable. And then we are going to have in the evening the Blue Fire Order. The sister and them use the title Rases. Controversial, because Ras mean head. Rases, I guess is a female head. But they are going to come and talk about their order, their I treat. These are sisters and I love them all. I don't know Rases Shamara. I think it'll be our first time. All of the others have been online Voice Network already and are my sistering. So it's going to be a nice reasoning, a nice discussion in terms of what they're doing as sistering on the front line. I look forward to that. So make sure the item tune in, and we're here. We're doing it. We are rising. We are shining. Also, before I leave, Ubuntu Lion Pride. You can become a lifetime member of the channel for $100 US. Rootsman Sonny was our last out of Aruba. Big up yourself, Rootsman Sonny. It's a good way if you have a business or your family name or whatever you want to do, you can put it there. But as long as this platform is running, we will be highlighting those Ubuntu Lion Pride members. And when we get a physical space, we'll have a wall or something that have all of our Ubuntu historical, people that made this possible will be part of it. So it's a good way to memorialize yourself with the rising of the channel. With the Patreon list, it changes because we lose people every month. Unfortunately, we know it's Gideon, but the Ubuntu is a great way to just memorialize yourself with the channel forever and ever. So becoming a Ubuntu Lion Pride, 100 US, you can Zelle, Cash App, or you can become a monthly subscriber, which is the backbone of the platform. We're up to 55 monthly subscribers. Our longtime listeners know how long I had to fight to get to 50. And I said, once we get to 50, we will be doing the Community Works Grant. We have started the Community Works Grant, and the item know that now we have issued 2 Community Works grants, and we have 2 nominations so far. We have Empress Janana is our August 1st Community Works Grant nominee, and we're going to vote on this in our town hall meeting. And then we have Raswida Maya, who just completed the Marcus Garvey Music Fest, is another Community Works Grants nominees. And these are frontline workers, and whoever wins the nomination will get $100 US from the Lion Voice Network family. And this is just to start the culture of us giving forward to the people who are doing the work. And if they take the money and go to the spa, if they buy a ounce of herb and burn it in a chalice load, we give thanks. Whatever they want to do with those funds are for them. It doesn't have to go to the works that they're doing. This is just recognizing that the people on the front line deserve to get support from the community, instead of we criticize them and tell them what they're not doing, which is the culture that has emerged. We want to reprogram our global family to see people doing work and say, you want $10, you want $5, here's a $20 rate with the I do. I can't do it, I won't do it, but I'm glad to see the I doing it. And here's $5-10 for that strength. So as the channel grows, as the community grows, that $100 will grow. Hopefully one time we'll have 5 million subscribers, and that $100 will be $10,000. We're not reached there so yet, but we are working to build that. We're still in our early days. And let me just seal with this. For the small businesses, big up the Grio's Paintbrush, big up Sister Davani Green, who are advertising, big up iRoots Records, big up Frontline Books, all of our advertisers who are spending their money with our platform. If you have a small business or you have a service, right now is the best time to advertise with the platform. We have very reasonable deals, as low as $25 a strong. It works out to, you have to pay monthly. But we have very reasonable packages for advertisers. If you're building a global brand, now is the time to tap in with the channel while we are still in our growing phase. We're still a toddler. You know what I mean? Now is the time to build. Imagine when we become a multi-million-dollar, multi-country operation, and you've been with us from the early days. You're going to get good treatment. Your name is going to be all around the world. So now is the time for the business people. Reach out to us, see how we can work together, make an offer, and let's build this economic foundation for the global family. Until next time, we will sign off. But remember that the time has come for the lions to tell our own story. And this is the Lion's Voice.
Peace and Pan-Africanism. This is Dr. Umar Ifatunde coming to you live and direct, New York City, Ethiopian World Federation 2026 conference. The time has come for the lions to tell our own story. And this is the Lion's Voice.
Universally unfold, be told,
Tege Idama, and it's time for the lioness and the lions for I voices and stories to be told. This is the lion's voice, Rastafari.
We're endorsing the lion's voice. Big up Raspasi. See?
Big up Raspasi.
It is time for the lion to tell our own story. Yes, sir.
Like this. There is a land far, far away. There is no night. There's only day. Look into the book of life. And you will see that there's a land far, far away. Raspasi! That there's a land far, far away. Speak lion. Let's speak lion. Roar lion, roar every time.
I will never stop, hail the Most High. And I will never stop, call Rastafari. Blessed love, this is Kushite representing for the Lion's Voice. We are here to tell our own story, Rastafari.
Now drop your guard when it come to them, ya youth, ya. Them fully guard up and them quick fi execute, ya. Now drop your guard when it come to them, ya youth, ya. The one will laugh, I'm same one of the shooter. Watching them, this is Rasta Jai representing for the Lion Voice Network. This is the time when the lion gets to tell our own story. Haile Selassie.
What are you waiting for? Come together, calling from near and far. Know who you are. What are you waiting for? Rally up, it takes the dust. What are you waiting for? Ancestors paved the way for us. Yes, I am Ketis Oyonde, asking, what are you waiting for to come together? The time has come for the lions to tell our own story. This is the Lion's Voice.
Yes, job people, this is Michael Shemai representing. I say, hear the lion voice, saying it is time for the lions and the lionesses to tell their own story. King David killed Goliath with a stone, we original dread.
Well, lion voice, tell them that's the people first choice. Lion voice, make the lioness them feel nice. Lion voice, with the lion cubs we sacrifice. Lion voice, got to show the people them the life. Lion voice.